We learn to live and live to learn in what has turned out to be an unprecedented situation, an unprecedented pandemic, with history being written across the geography of Mother Earth. And a minor virus has created a major catastrophe, making each and every one of us rewind, rethink, re-strategize, reformat, reboot before we rebuild a new future, a new normal. In the world of education, they say that the only thing constant is change. In a pandemic, they say that the only thing certain is uncertainty. And in an environment like that, when uncertainty prevails, we still need to progress. Now, while all progress has to come from change, the fact is that all change does not lead to progress, particularly in an environment which is ever-changing and dynamic, making the challenges very unique and peculiar. And that's why we need to look at solutions together, and more importantly, to create opportunities which have unfolded with the new education policy in particular. That's why we at edumate.tv build together a repository of information, views and analysis, as well as news, with all those who have stakes in the education ecosphere. The students, the parents, the teachers, and more importantly, the government, the edupreneurs, the educrats, as well as the vice chancellors, the principals of schools, as we all come together to try and understand what will be the best way forward, what will be the best new in the new normal. This program is a series which has been continuing for the last 100 days. At the end of September, we will be presenting a white paper to the Government of India to understand for them what could be the future progressive path. The program is brought to you by Education, a company that looks at education ahead. And I say with great pride that it's powered by the best university in the Northeast in rankings across spectras. That's the Royal Global University. And as always, the popularity of Edumate and Royal Global University coming together is always at sky high. All our webinars thus far have been absolutely full. This has been a jam-packed audience. And today, on this Thursday afternoon, it is no different. And a large part of it is also coming because we've got some very, very special guests to speak to us today on the education policy. Now, for the first time, India will have a Ministry of Education to replace the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Ironically, though, the policy announced after 34 years aims not just at education. In fact, it's the first time it aims at something that's far more holistic, and it's actually aimed at human resource development. But will the policy do exactly what it's meant to do? Right. What it does is that it just aims at the entire gamut of HRD. It expands the lens beyond structured curriculum and predictable careers to a holistic 360-degree character-building process, reviving India's famed Gurukul approach with the aim of creating a self-reliant India. By addressing the critical needs of employment and employability, it offers a creative mix of flexibility and focus throughout the learning life of the students, as it empowers the teachers, trying to enhance transparency and accountability through leaner governance. The new education policy truly has the makings of a clear 2020 vision. The only problem is it needs to be implemented. And only if it's implemented in its entire and true letter and spirit will it be relevant, responsive, and responsible.
I see this policy as a very, very important opportunity for all of us to revamp our system, to rejuvenate. As a geologist, this is a very important word for me, to rejuvenate, to do something great. The time has come, I would say that. But it doesn't mean that I want to say that earlier time was not good. we all sitting in this webinar today are the outcome of the earlier policies and earlier systems. So I would say that I was having 100% faith in our earlier policies also, but then a remarkable change has happened during this time, and this is probably, I would say, a rejuvenation in the existing education system of our country, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm part of it. And I have sent suggestions out of 225 suggestions which Kasturi Ranganji has got from across the country. One of the suggestion was from me also, and I hope he has considered that. So we all have part and parcel of this policy. However, the opportunities are concerned, I think we all are aware of it, and many speakers will throw light on certain areas of school education and higher education, today's webinar. And if I'll touch upon everything, I think that will not be right also than what others will speak on. So I will limit myself to two things which I have liked the most. And that is in higher education, I will first go to the point number 9 and 9.1, and especially with respect to 11.1. The two very important things to my mind is, and that what I felt in my life also while I was getting education in school, and then later on in the University of Lucknow and Colvin Talukedas College by very eminent people. They were actually what I would say that the education system of those institutions. And number two, the most important pillars, and I would say only one pillar. There's no other pillar in education. The only pillar of education is teachers. People talk about 3, 4, 5 pillars. I don't talk about that. Only pillar for education is teachers. They are the policymakers. They are the implementers. They are positives. They are negatives. They are good. They are bad. So I would stick upon two things. One is what we want out of it. What we want out of education as such. What we want out of education, in my opinion, is not only skilling, is not only preparing people for livelihood. It is important in 11.1, it is very clearly said, we want people for life. We want to train lifelong learners. We want to grow children in a context that they are having three very important things in them. They should learn from Sanskriti, they should have sanskars, and they should have sansari gyan. If Sanskriti, sanskar and sansari gyan is not there, I don't think so we require good engineers or good doctors or good whatever. They may be. People go to foreign countries, do PhDs, come back. But then we don't have a system to find out that these things are being inculcated. So this Banbhat Kadambani, which has been referred in the education policy, 64 kalas, I emphasize on that.
We had the largest university, residential university, which were burned by the attackers, which were burned by the people who does not want to encourage the India at that time. But I think we must go to pre-partition days. Education has been a hot subject even on those days. Gandhiji was very particular in education system, and Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. I will recommend a book on him, written by me, printed by National Book Trust. As educationists, nobody knows about the contribution of Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee to the education system. But it's a very sorry state of things. Dr. Kothari Ayub, which was in our Delhi University Department, Dr. Kothari, I had the occasion of darshan of him. But I think many reforms were old. And now in the last 80s, when the 10+2 system was introduced, it was just to have a new type of education which could not give results to us. Now Kasturi Ranganji and his team has done a very human service to this country. A report was published, suggestions were invited, which were more than 2 lakhs, and a concise report of just 64 pages is before us. Report is very good, intentions are very good, but the most difficult part is the implementation of this report. Because India is a heterogeneous country, more than 29 states, union territories, everybody has its own views about education, but this is a very holistic report, and all the educationists must implement it in their spirit, letter and spirit. I think the out-of-box thinking should start now.
And the agenda set by National Education Policy, if I restrict myself initially towards school education, I think potentially the policy tried to extract the creative thinking mindset, how we can really shift towards that. Fundamentally, through various research-based experience, the policy tried to focus upon those areas, be it FLN, that foundation literacy and numeracy skills, embedded with early childhood educations. The concept may be there in every parent's mind, but a visionary document, when accommodate this kind of concept, I think the parents, civil society, and all the teaching fraternity will like to practice it. They are already practicing, but more they are getting an agenda. Yes, this is the mission of the government to create FLN, because fundamentally, again, the stress point, if all educationists who are viewing us today will agree, that we grown up with a lot of misconception. Conception, of course, the conception, through the conceptions we got the degree, but some misconceptions are also very much there. How to clarify this misconception? That is required at the primary level. So foundation literacy and numeracy, the more and more focus we can give in early days, including the linguistic capability. Because the worldwide, Chetanji, you know, and all my senior colleague, the principal, vice chancellor and chancellor of the university and school principal will also agree with me that the age group is very much crucial.
What I feel that this is the first policy that seeks the unshackle students from the tyranny of administrative constraint. And what I feel that with this policy is with the multiple choices, multidisciplinary learning and multiple opportunities and chances. See, if we talk about the opportunities, if we talk about the challenges, suggestions, I cannot catch all the topics or all the part of the policy, but most importantly, what I find that we are getting opportunities as the artificial intelligence has been introduced. Another thing, what I feel is the problematic area, जो हमें लगेगा, that will be the universalization of education. It's universal access to the education at all levels. As a reason for the future of education of India, NEP 2020 has clearly attempted to fill some of the gaps long felt in the school sector. The extension of free and compulsory education from grade 1 to 8 to preschool and secondary level is welcome, and it was really overdue. Yet one wonder how the cost of doing this will be met. In 1993, if you all remember, the Supreme Court mandate in the Unni Krishnan's case that every child below the age of 14 years had a right to free and compulsory education. But yet, when the RT Act was finally passed, it only included children between the age of 6 to 14 years, as the country could not afford the course of preschool. This was the explanation.
From my point of view, that is, the right to education is extended up to 18 years. Very, very fine. This midday meal is okay. but these should be very, very transparent. And appointment system of the school teachers is most technology based, and our education is even in school education system, the learning should be blending learning. That is our online learning, and also there should be some web learning. And funding in public sector schools or institutions are more, that is more funding for the infrastructure institutes, and the policy makers, that is the policymakers who makes policy, they should be more autonomous in all these policies. Next, I will go some points or a highlight higher education. Higher education, in higher education system, there is a research funding system is pointed. This is very fine, because this research-based education will make India that is innovative way, that is we will go to the India will go to the world stage. More and more innovation will come. That is, so our India will become a Vishwa Guru for new research.
The important step taken by NEP 2020 that existing 10+2 structure of the schooling system has been replaced by 5+3+3 structure covering children between the age 3 to 18 as foundation stage, preparatory stage, middle stage and secondary stage. And there's a very important step taken by NEP 2020 is talking about early childhood education. This is mentioned by earlier speakers also, which is quite appreciating. From the research done in many countries around the world, it has been found that only proper education to children of 3 to 6 years of age can lead the development of intellectually and academically strong citizens. Although some private schools possesses this facility, but they lack in definite curriculum. Whereas in case of government schools, children can learn from the age of 6 years only. Even the system of Anganwadi fails to cover all the children in the entire country and therefore has not been a success. The NEP will provide a uniform, proper curriculum throughout, which will enable equally irrespective of private, public and government schools. There is another important point. The policy focuses on 100% gross enrollment to be fulfilled by 2030.
Two remarkable things about the NEP is that, for the first time perhaps, it is grounded on a very grand vision and with a very realistic perspective. So these are very important in whatever details that is there in the national education policy. It seeks to, the opportunity is here. It seeks for the first time after independence to subject our educational system into a very, very critical review, keeping in mind India's very strong heritage in the knowledge system. At the same time, this policy is also not forgetting the immediate perspectives of bringing in a new education policy in view of the unprecedented technological revolution and knowledge explosion that had taken place. It is also taking into account the urgent need for preparing our next generation or the present generation for the 4.0 industry. So these are very realistic assessments which constitute the perspective and also the vision which seeks to transform our India through an India-centric knowledge system to an equitable and sustainable knowledge-based society. This is a tremendous challenge. we want to transform our nation into an equitable and sustainable knowledge-based society. But for that, we resort to our past heritage, our tradition, the heritage of knowledge system, and also we take into account what is awaiting us in the form of the technologies that are knocking at our door, which have been clearly mentioned by some of the previous speakers, like artificial intelligence, data mining, and so on and so forth. So, and the second part is, the challenge is, for the first time, we are focusing on the students' faculty of logical thinking, creative thinking, and innovative thinking in the learning process, rather than on the memory.
The planning is done perfectly okay for the school education, that is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. That is, within 18 years, child must complete 12 standard. But I have to make a point here. This 18 years, it can be, come down to within 16 years if they complete their school education up to class 12. What I feel, because I have been in this education line for last 30 years, I believe at the age of 14, child can complete class 10 standard, and 16 plus 17 years, he or she can complete class 12. And within 20 years, they can get a degree which government is planning, that is 4 years degree. If 20 years child can complete a degree, then they have enough time for the entrepreneur and other things. So in the school education, already government is talking about this vocational education. The CPSE has already taken step for artificial intelligence, and couple of vocational courses they have already introduced, that is 402 in computer science in class 9 and 10. So what I understand, or I realize, in India we have done enough to mental development of the child, but we have not done enough for the enhancement of the hands. Hands must be enhanced. Otherwise, with all those degree, where 80% of students are not, they are not, expert to get a job. They have a degree, they have a couple of degrees, but they are not qualified, to the job. Because one must have to operate multi windows if he or she get a job. So government has taken a good initiative, although it is late, but I think if it is implemented, properly, with positive attitude and practically, government has to implement, then only they will get a, successful result.
And here in this new educational policy, we are now talking about to develop the skills of the people, the skills of our students. We are talking now to develop the vocational education in the educational system. And my personal view is that with the introduction of vocational system, or with the introduction of these art, cultural, all these educations from school level, it will definitely increase the skills of our students. Since presently we are creating learners for government jobs. We have created doctors, we have created lots of engineers, we have created lots of pilots or other technical person, but we have failed to motivate our students to be a plumber, to be a carpenter, to be other electricians who can meet the needs of our society. So this new educational policy, it will definitely reduce the unbalanced educational growth of our country. That is my personal view. And one important thing is that all educational institutions will be multidisciplinary in their education. And presently, in the northeastern region, you know that we have around 57 or 60 numbers of universities. We have around 900 numbers of higher education colleges. We have around 1 lakh numbers of primary schools in the northeastern region. In all these educational institutions, you can simply find the ongoing education system, that is creation of BA, BSc, BCom, MA, MSc, MCom, that's enough. But with the introduction of this multidisciplinary system, once students will expose to other educational areas, along with learning about political science, he can learn about electricity. Along with learning about the physics, he can learn about the dramas or art. So that is the quite important thing of this new educational policy.
When I read about this education policy, the intent is to bridge the gap between the current state of learning outcomes and what is desirable to meet and to reach the global standard and global competitiveness.
The policy is very forward-looking, it is very innovative, it is a very student-centric policy in which the student has been given a lot of freedom, like freedom of speech is already there, but he has been given the freedom of choice of subjects, the freedom of choice of university in terms of academic bank of credit, freedom of choice of speed. I mean, freedom of speed is also there with the student. And when you talk of teacher training of the teachers or teacher education, the policy has recognized that teacher education is very important because the school education forms the foundation of higher education. So the school pass-outs come as the feeder cadre of the higher education. So it is very important that at the school level itself, the students are nurtured properly, they are groomed properly, they are taught properly, and they do have the sort of not only the rote learning of the subjects, but critical thinking, curiosity, analysis, critical analysis of the thing, creativity, all that should be there within them. So therefore, a lot of emphasis has been laid to teacher education, and that is why it has been said that the standalone colleges, there were B.Ed colleges which were running 1-year, 2-year program. They should be first running all 4-year programs, which will be 4-year B.A. B.Ed integrated course. And second, they should be also becoming multidisciplinary. It is not that the student will be studying only education. The student should be studying multiple subjects so that the holistic development of the student will be there. Therefore, the policy does emphasize on teacher education in a multifarious manner, in a multiple manner, to improve the quality of teacher education, to make it more holistic, to make it multidisciplinary, and make it more encompassing, or maybe more grooming of the teacher is required. That's why they are talking about 4-year B.A. B.Ed integrated programs for those teachers who are deciding immediately after 12th class that yes, I want to choose teaching as a profession. So that will definitely be good. Now, when we come to implementation of the policy, for implementation, there's a lot of way forward given in the policy, but for implementation, everybody has to play their part, whether it is central government or it is state government or it is universities, vice chancellors, colleges, faculty, students. Everybody has to play their part.
So what I'm going to do now, we've got about 20 minutes left on this program. I'm going to take a quick break, after which I'm going to go across to each of our speakers and ask them to take 1 or 2 or maximum 3 pledges which they will take to implement the highlights of this policy. We'll just come back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Royal Global University is your window to the world. See the transition in you through innovative pedagogy, state-of-the-art facilities, and experienced faculty. The leading university of Northeast India, we handhold you to stay inspired throughout your journey. Your intellect combined with our tutelage will pave a purpose to ideate and innovate. Spread across 27 acres, all schools are equipped with the finest state-of-the-art infrastructure. At Royal Global University, Guwahati, we nurture global citizens. Our placement support ensures quality career and a secured future. You dream, we deliver.
So, you've heard several voices across the spectrum of education telling us the pros and the cons of the new education policy. The only common voice I heard across everybody was that we need to implement this to get it correct. Now, the question is, does the implementation be the only privilege of the government, or do each and every one of us on this program have a responsibility? Well, I think it's the latter. We all have to be responsible. So I'm going to go across, before we close this program, to each and every one of our guests and take 3 pledges from them as to how they pledge to implement this new education policy at their end.
My 3 pledges or my 3 views, whatever you say, solutions. As I have said in the beginning, my pledge number 1 is that so far in my life, I have never did and I will never do. And I pledge here on this platform that I will not take a chance to appoint anyone who is not, in my opinion and our opinion, is fit for teaching profession. I assure you on this platform. Number 2, continuously throughout my life, I was into teachers training. I ensure that all the teachers in Royal Global University and across the state and wherever I get a chance, they should be trained and they should become lifelong learners, and they are. This is pledge number 1. Pledge number 2 is that in the mindset which has been given already in National Education Policy, that people have a mindset that private institutions, at times they use the word, are private shops. I will ensure that in due course of time, and it has already been done, that people should keep us equal. We are not less than public sector enterprises. We are far, far better than me, in my opinion. I left government job and joined private sector 20 years back, and I ensure, sitting all the people on this platform, that we are not private shops. We are absolutely for public. We are doing the best service, and we are 50% stakeholder in the education of this country. Number 2 pledge. And number 3, I will not limit myself to the premises of this policy. Earlier policy also, I never limited myself in the premises of the policy. Whatever is required to make a holistic citizen and whatever is required at the higher education for 64 Kalas and Banabhat and Kadambani, we were doing it earlier also. And I assure, if God give me a chance, I'll go from 64 to 128 Kalas if the policy will not restrict me.
How we can rather bring impact of the training to classroom. So training not only for certifications, training to actual real experiential or competency-based education's delivery in classroom. This is the first pledge or view. Second one is how we can connect with industry, and especially school industry connect, and making a skill hub, at least one skill hub at every district of the country in coming years, with the help of industry and private partners, and of course the government in the backbone. And third is, of course, only component which of course Singh sir has highlighted initially, how we can think of a civil society or parent-school interactions in a positive directions to stress on value and ethics and happy well-being. So happiness as an extract from the policy, how we can live a happy life, both we from the side of the government, school, principal, teacher, parents, and ultimately the education, student-led education.
So as an office of AIU, I feel that what we will be doing as our bit in implementing the national education policy would be that we will be helping our member universities in first understanding the policies, and second, how to implement various aspects of the policy. So that we are already doing by way of many webinars, workshops, and then we are also drawing an implementation strategy for the universities to follow. For example, on parts of the university, what we feel is that they don't need to depend upon the government or wait for the government recommendations to come. For example, restructuring of programs. So restructuring of programs, whether it has to be a 4-year program, policy is already there. They can go to their ACEC and make it 4-year program. They can introduce multiple entry and exit options. They can do the multidisciplinary approach they can follow for imparting the education. Like similarly, internship, because a lot of importance has been given to experiential learning. So internships also they can introduce. So for all this, doing all these, or even for making institution development plans, the universities or the colleges do not have to depend upon the government to come out with some implementation document and then they will do. The policy is already there, universities can do it. Similarly, on the part of the teachers, because this policy has given wings to the universities, wings to the teachers, wings to the students. So when wings are there, we all should be flying high. For example, when we talk to the teachers now have the independence of choosing what to teach, choosing how to teach, and also choosing how to assess and evaluate the students. It's an opportunity to reimagine the education. So I'll really work on it. Reimagine really means adding more and more education technology into schooling. Another thing is that we will need to redefine the role of the teacher in the classroom of tomorrow. This may mean that the role of teacher will need to move towards the facilitating young people's development as contributing members of society rather than just lecturing. So I assure you all, and I will definitely work on the development of the teachers so they can cope with the things, new things, and I will really arrange a development program for the teachers to train teachers to handle such multilingual teaching as well as several of the other measures proposed.
From the teachers' side, it should they should motivate our students, because the teachers are the role model for all students. So teachers should motivate the students from the primary level to the higher level. They can motivate, they can inspire the student. You make them discover, and then ultimately to innovation. So the India can, from local to Atmanirbhar to world guru. Say one day India will be, from India there will be many Nobel laureates.
So how, without putting that quality education, is it possible? So it is totally wrong concept. So private also equally give importance of the developed education in country. Okay, so we also consider a private school also as well as the government and public side. And I compel all the teachers to motivate the students, not only the professional subject and also the games, vocational subject also. And number 3, that most of the lower primary school of our states are run by single teachers. It is a very difficult point. So a multidisciplinary subjects can teach by single teacher is not possible. So I also used our teachers to develop this type of students by using our teachers also.
Mental block of the teachers, all of us, must be removed, number 1. Number 2, training must be given to all concerned by the authorities, and you have to do really, we have to ready mentally and also make our infrastructure ready for the implementation. And most importantly, we have to honest to everyone and equal judgment to everyone.
Empowering the teachers for self-introspection and to also initiate innovative methods for their teaching learning outcomes and making them more efficient and more effective in teaching.
Emphasis more on continuous education of our teachers. Number next is to make aware our students, all the persons associated with this education system on this new education policy. And number 3rd one is introduction of more vocational as well as skill-based courses.
I will dedicate myself from now on, if I may say so, towards creating a new environment, a new paradigm, and a new culture in the realm of education, especially higher education, in the private education sector.
So I thank each and every one of you for being a part of this very special webinar. My sincere thanks to RGU, Professor Sanjay Pratap Singh, for seeing value in creating value for the system of this country, Dr. Vishwajit, as well as Dr. Pankaj. Thank you for your valuable time, and thank you for reinforcing and reigniting the spirit of implementation of this new education policy. In fact, I'm going to end off saying that the NEP on edumate.tv is not going to be the new education policy, it's going to be the new education pledge, of implementation. Thank you very much. As I always say at the end of it all, educate better, you'd better educate.